Can you teach a machine to be funny? That is the kind of unlikely question that rapid advances in technology have now put on the table. Kory Mathewson is a PhD student at the University of Alberta working on interactive machine learning. He's also an improv comedian who works with robots. So if anyone can explain where this is all headed, he's a good bet. And he joins us now on the line from Edmonton, Alberta. Kory, it's good to have you on TVO. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's good to be here.
Where did the notion come from to combine your comedic skills with your passion for computer science into a new form of artificial intelligence?
It's a good question. I started doing improv about 13 years ago. And maybe about 10 years ago, I started doing improv with people from the audience. So the show was called 15 Minutes of Fame. And what I was trying to do was find the person in the audience who knew improv the least. And then I would get them up and I would make them the star of the show for a brief amount of time. And it was so much fun. And I had so much fun like pretending with these people who otherwise weren't improvisers. And I sort of thought, you know, the best improvisers, well, they can improvise with anyone. They can get up on a stage and make an entertaining performance with anyone or anything. And I started to combine the ideas of improvising with anyone with this like chatbot system that was sort of gaining some acceptance and some was making some leaps in the computing science world. And I thought, you know, if the best improviser can improvise with anyone, they could probably also improvise with a computer that's talking and responding to them. And that's where the seed of the show sort of started. I pitched it to the director here at Rapid Fire Theatre in Edmonton, and he said, you know, that sounds challenging and dynamic, and let's see it work. And he gave me the green lights to start the show, and that was about a year and a half ago.
Well, speaking of let's see it work, I think we should do that right now. We've got a clip of you at work here, so we'll play that, and then we'll come back and chat. Sheldon, if you would, roll the clip.
What's wrong? What's wrong with you?
I'm not sure it would be really funny for you to know.
Yeah, I understand, Samantha. Then at least tell me this. Have you thought about names for the baby? I have a list that I've prepared.
You'd do anything for me. Is there a point I have to tell you?
I mean, once the baby's alive, you're probably going to have to tell me.
Okay, we got to figure this all out here. Okay, Kory, before there's a base of knowledge here that I fear we all don't know that we need to understand in order for us to get how this works. So start off by talking to us about the distinction here between artificial intelligence and automation and algorithms, because all that's wrapped up in what you're trying to do here, I gather, right?
Absolutely. It's great to start with some sort of groundwork. I like the term machine intelligence, and we think about machine intelligence as being anything from a thermostat in a house all the way up to a car that can drive itself around a city. So that is a machine that has some form of intelligence. And that's a bit of a spectrum, and somewhere along that spectrum, well, that's where you'd consider artificial intelligence, or a term that's been sort of you know, made in the 1950s or so. Artificial intelligence is sort of the point on that machine intelligence spectrum when we'd start to see the machines having some human level abilities in how they process the world or move around in the world. That is sort of artificial intelligence on the spectrum of machine intelligence. An algorithm is sort of the way in which we would teach these machines to be intelligent, or how we would give them knowledge of the world. Yeah, the automation, I guess, is more like precisely programming a system to do something, a routine, a procedure over and over again with a human less in the loop or maybe completely out of the loop.
But the thing I gather that people find so amazing about all this is that you have kind of, through the mixture of all those three things, programmed your artificial intelligence, your, you know, if you're Abbott, then that's Costello, to have some kind of intuitive understanding that what you're saying is funny and she needs to come back with something funny. How do you even begin to do that?
It's exactly the research question that started this all off, is how do you start to make a comedic performer that, you know, doesn't need to be the best improviser at the beginning, but sort of slowly trains and learns how to do it. So what I did was take all of the movie scripts, and not just a collection, but all of the movie scripts from the last 100 years, so hundreds of thousands of movie scripts, and broke them down into their component words, and then give that all to a deep learning system to start to consume, and all it does is try to predict the next word. So it looks at every movie script ever and says, if these words happened, 1, 2, 3, well then what is word number 4? And if it can start to predict that with higher and higher accuracy, well then it starts to learn what I call a language model. And that language model is underlying movie scripts. And in doing so, then I can say lines that sound as though they're from a movie, and it can respond by predicting what the next line would be from that movie, or from a movie in general. That's like language learning.
Now, your robot's name is Alex, which is a sort of an acronym for Artificial Language Experiment. And I guess we should find out, how is interacting with your Alex different from our everyday interacting with Apple's Siri?
That's a great question. So the first thing that you might notice from that clip is that the delay time from my input to Alex's output is a little bit longer than Siri. So humans usually have a delay response of about 200 to 800 milliseconds, and Alex's is about a second or 2 seconds, depending on how much thinking is going on in the system. Siri can cut down that time even shorter because it uses rule-based strategies to respond. So if you ask something, it'll look through a rule-based tree and then respond with the according response. What Alex is a generative system. So it's trying to generate a bunch of candidate responses online in that moment and then select the best response.
Have you got some more tweaking of Alex that you want to do?
Absolutely. There's always tweaking. So I need to reduce that delay time. I also want to select the best candidate. So I may not want the most probable response, but I want a unique or novel, interesting response. I want one that connects what I was saying with what happened before in the scene. And these are kind of new reward schemes or new schemes that I might use to train Alex.
Let me just follow up on the point you made a moment ago about how you put 100 scripts, comedy scripts, into this thing so they would have some sense of how to respond. I mean, that just sounds like it should probably take 100 years to do. Obviously it didn't, but how time-consuming was it to get all that done?
It's an interesting question. So the fact that these computer systems that we're using now are so much faster and so much bigger space-wise than we had in the past means that it's even possible for us to do this. So now we can train these kind of systems. Alex was trained for about a month and a half. So consuming all the data, consuming all of the different rules and scripts, well, that took some programming, and that took about 3 weeks of programming, a month of programming, and then once we start the training, well, then it has to train for a month and a half. And what it's doing in that training is learning that underlying language model. And we would imagine that as computers start to get faster and faster, well, then that training time can even reduce.
I assume there was a lot of failure along the way, yes?
There was tons of failure. The first show I ever did at Rapid Fire Theatre here in Edmonton, the first show I ever did was like almost a failure. Just walked that tightrope of failure. And the system, it was more of a show watching me try to debug a system live on stage. And then when it finally did say something, it said something rather blue and off color. And here I am on stage with an improv partner that's now said something that's like partially incriminating. So that's a failure. It's also a failure when there's technical difficulties. But like the improv wisdom says, any kind of failure is success, really. It's all perspective. So you don't know until you start to accept and acknowledge that failure. And that's part of where this came from, right? In that improv is all about using your failure to succeed, and the improv wants to watch the struggle between failure and success. And the same is true in training these machine learning systems. They're going to fail and learn every time they fail. So it was drawing those analogies together that sort of got me to connect these ideas.
And what's the hardest part of teaching humans and machines to do all of what you've been describing?
The hardest part of teaching humans to do improv is getting them to forget everything that they've learned social dynamically. Like 5-year-olds are really good at doing improv because they have imagination and they're not afraid to say what they're thinking. Once you get into professionals in the workplace, people hesitate and they don't want to necessarily jump in and say something that might be embarrassing or otherwise. So it's getting them to lose that inhibition and just say impulsively what's on their mind. The most difficult thing about training these computer systems is working out the technology behind it and ensuring that we're reducing the amount of time so it sounds more human-like. We're allowing it to train better. We're allowing it to learn better and not catastrophically forget everything that it's learned along the way.
Now, my hunch is a lot of people watching us right now, I referenced Abbott and Costello earlier, they may remember them, Rowan and Martin, Martin and Lewis, Burns and Allen. I mean, there have been some great comedy duos over the years.
Sure.
Your comedy partner is essentially an algorithm. How odd is that for you?
It is quite weird. My comedy partner is what I've created, and it's weird to think that all these humans that I've enjoyed doing comedy with are now watching me do improv with an algorithm. One of the things that I really like is the idea that I can share this algorithm with everyone. So I've built a comedy partner that now a whole bunch of improvisers, a whole generation of improvisers can go out and perform with. So it's not just our dynamic that's interesting, but now I get to share that dynamic with an entire community of improvisers.
And it challenges you as an improviser too, I presume.
It absolutely does. So Alex's limitations right now are that it can't really justify what's happening in the improvisation, in the comedy. It doesn't really understand what's happening, which means it's up to me to do a lot of the justification. It's up to me to connect the threads and braid them together in a clever narrative. So I think the improv, is engaging and interesting for the audience because they watch me sort of fly by the seat of my pants, trying to connect these things and the random notions that Alex brings up.
Now, lest anybody think you actually don't know how to relate to other human beings, let us assure people that there's another improviser who likes working with AI named Piotr in the United Kingdom, and you've done some work with him. We want to show a little clip of your work together, and then we'll come back and chat again. Show the clip, if you would.
We've just seen a show involving a robot and 2 humans. What was your impression of that?
Lots of it was funny. Sometimes it worked, and then sometimes it didn't. And sometimes when it didn't work, it was even funnier.
I can only lead you so far. There is only so much that I can show you.
The human performer would say some things, and then the robot would come out with some sort of random non sequitur.
What have you done with my father? Why did you go to the hospital?
That's a long way from the machine, 1, having intent, and 2, knowing what they've said is funny.
How have you and Piotr been able to collaborate on this?
It's an awesome question. So after I did that show here in Edmonton at Rapid Fire Theatre, I put up a blog post that sort of said, here's what I wanted to do, here's what worked, and here's what didn't work, and most of it didn't work. And a few days later in my inbox comes an email that I open up from Piotr, and it sort of says 2 things. One is, screw you, I was working on training a model and I wasn't ready yet. And 2 is, let's work together. So Piotr is an incredibly talented AI researcher and a very funny improviser, and he was working on something very similar, and he said, let's work together, and at that point our partnership sort of started. So we've built this company called Human Machine, and we've produced a few different shows. We've done improv totally remotely in 2 different theaters to 2 different audiences with 2 humans and 2 AIs, a show called Binary 2. We now have another show called Improbotics, where we pair up humans and then humans that are puppeted by AIs and humans that are puppeted by other humans, and connect them all on stage together. So we get to bounce ideas off each other, and it's such a small community working at this intersection between science and art that it's neat to hear some reverberations from other like-minded folk.
Well, the big improv place in Toronto, of course, is Second City, and I wonder if you've heard anything from them or any other people in the improv business?
Absolutely. So 2 wonderful folks. One is Eitan Muscat in Toronto, who worked for Second City and now works at Bad Dog Comedy. And he does a show called Yes Android, where he connects some AI with some people, but it's still starting up and finding its feet. And then another is Rachel Rosenthal, who's an improviser in New York and a teacher there. And she's sort of written an interesting essay on the work that me and Piotr have done with Alex. And it sort of starts with, I thought I would hate this, and then it goes on to describe sort of her interaction and understanding of the system. So the community is slowly growing, and we're, it's opportunities like this that I get to share with other people and say, this is an exciting place. If you're a comedian, if you're a scientist, if you're an artist, we can connect on this. And because all this technology is open source and it's accessible, it means that these AI systems can be trained by anyone. Now we have the technology to be able to train these systems. Anyone can, in their computer in a day or so, and have something interesting that they can start to interact with.
Well, take this forward. Let's go 5 years forward. How do you imagine this kind of changing show business as we know it today?
Yeah, absolutely. So two things that I imagine is that, one, we will start to immerse ourselves a little more in cinema. So we can imagine a virtual reality movie where we look around and the main scene is happening between actors. But over on this side, if we look and turn our heads, well, then we might see some artificial intelligent dialogue systems communicating with each other. And it's not the main story plot, but they're having their own little subplot. So we'd imagine a more immersive world that is fleshed out by some of these dialogue systems. You might also imagine the same kind of thing in a video game. So you're walking around a video game, this immersive, expansive world, and if you go into that village, well, that village is full of these AI systems, and you have to sort of negotiate with them in conversations to get certain things. I also imagine that the shows that we're doing on stage are going to change. So right now I'm interacting with mostly dialogue, but we can imagine simple implementations that would allow us to project light into the space, project different images, project video, and all of that could be controlled algorithmically as well. So it might choose to add soft, subtle music, a romantic backdrop of these Venetian pillars and robes, and then start to talk in this romantic Roman language. And all of a sudden, I'm much more immersed than if it just sort of tells me. So it's the idea in acting of, you know, show it, don't tell it, do the thing rather than say the thing.
Kory, what makes you think this idea has legs and won't just be sort of a gimmick for today and then gone tomorrow?
It's a good question, and it's funny you say legs, because it is a computer and it doesn't, you know, really have legs. But
good point.
Watching an audience watch these shows is what brings me the most hope, because I can see the fascination that the audiences have with having a robot on stage, and then watching the improvisers interact with it. It looks like they're being unlocked and unleashed and able to tell these more fanciful stories of futuristic technology, something that was sort of saved for science fiction in books and in TV, and now we can do it live on stage because we have these robots that we can interact with.
Well, I was going to say, in some respects, I mean, you're too young to remember this, but I grew up with a TV show called Lost in Space, and there was a robot that the Robinson family interacted with. Now, of course, there was somebody inside the robot, and it wasn't exactly what you're doing, but the notion is pretty similar, isn't it? It's kind of interacting with the future. You're doing it right now. That's pretty cool, eh?
Thank you. Yeah, I absolutely do think it's cool. And is that your favorite robot? Would you say that that's your favorite robot?
I guess that's the one. It's the one that comes to mind now.
There you go. My favorite robot is Rosie from the Jetsons. And we imagine that there's these robots that have been depicted in science fiction in a whole bunch of different ways, and they're not necessarily subservient. You know, Rosie was quite sassy, and the robot from Lost in Space was like helpful, but not necessarily perfect. And that's sort of what we're doing here. We're showing that these robots do exist now. We can interact with them now, but they're not to be feared. They're not scary. They are limited in their capacity, and showing those limitations sort of allows a comfort to wash over the audience and say, oh, this is the extent of the capability. Okay, I'm not as worried about robots taking over as I thought I would be.
Now, Kory, just for the record, my robot was real. Your robot is a cartoon, so that's a big difference there. Okay, let's finish up on this. If you are in fact onto something here, and this has broader applications going forward, what do you imagine artificial intelligence, other applications could bring to the theater world going forward?
Yeah. I imagine that the theater is here to interpret and share human experience with larger and larger audiences. And I think that artificial intelligence has an interesting place to play in understanding the perception of the audience. So we can now imagine pointing cameras and microphones at the audience and measuring their engagement during a show, and then changing the show, making it more engaging, compelling, sad, happy, as the audience is being measured in their perception of it. So we could, in fact, imagine a more immersive, interactive theater experience if the audience gets to control the music that's happening and then watch this scene on stage. And that would allow us to connect with emotions even deeper than we can right now. Right now it's about the actors sort of portraying that emotion so clear, but if we could actually pull that emotion measurement from the audience, well, that would give us all kinds of interactivity. Yeah.
Good. When are you going to have your PhD done?
November 2018.
So perhaps next time you come here, I'm going to have to call you Dr. Mathewson. Is that right?
That would be the hope, yeah.
Good for you. Well, in advance, we wish you well finishing the PhD, and we can't thank you enough for sparing some time for TVO tonight. Kory Mathewson, improv comedian and a PhD student in machine learning. Thanks so much, Kory.
Thank you so much.
The Agenda with Steve Bacon is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.